Well, welcome everybody. My name is Wendy Jenkins and I had a double lung transplant about 13 and a half years ago because of primary pulmonary hypertension. And we are doing a series of videos through the Lungitude Foundation about different tips and practical advice that we think patients and carers might find really useful. So this is one of those series. And today we're going to be talking about some practical tips which might be useful. So just introduce the other people who are on here and I'll let them do that themselves. So Karen, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
No worries, thank you, Wendy. I'm Karen Pritchard. I'm 55 years old. I had a single lung transplant around 5 years ago due to idiopathic pulmonary fibrosis. I live in Warrnambool and I work full time, so very, very lucky.
Great. And Sam, you just want to introduce yourself?
My name's Sam. I'm 41 years old. I've had 2 double lung transplants. First set was in 2009 and then I had to get it redone in 2013 due to cystic fibrosis, and yeah, it's been an amazing time and back to normal.
Great. And Craig?
Hi, my name's Craig Wood. I'm 59. I had a double lung transplant due to alpha-1 antitrypsin or COPD 2.5 years ago. And like Karen, I'm back working full-time as well.
Excellent. And yeah, it's quite common for people to get back to work after having a transplant. So, and also, do lots of things that everyone else does, such as, getting out to visit friends, going out to restaurants, needing to exercise, go shopping, etc. And so that's one of the reasons we thought this could be helpful if we just share some of our tips of what we found useful over the last few years. So the first thing I thought we might talk about is medications, given that's such a key topic. And I might start with my favourite tip, which I think probably a lot of you might also use, and that's the medicine containers which are available. So everyone will have lots of different ways that they need to take their meds. I'm morning and night, so I find this one really useful, and I actually do 2 weeks at a time, because that way if I'm going to run out I've got a couple of weeks up my sleeve to get in scripts that I might need, or talk to the pharmacist, and sometimes if there's a drug which is a bit short on supply, that gives me enough time. So if we'll perhaps go to Karen, what are your tips on medications?
Well, you stole mine. I also do 2 weeks at a time. I still use the dosette boxes. I stole a second one really early on, asked for one, mainly because I am regional. I found that it was really important that I made sure that I kept an audit of my medications. Even with some of the ones that are available at the local hospital, they needed sometimes time to order them in. So I have to sort of be proactive and make sure that I know what I need ahead of time. So I really like the 2 weeks. Plus I'm a little bit lazy and I hate that, getting them all out. So I'm thinking of going to monthly, but not seriously.
It's probably not a bad idea given, especially the circumstances that we find ourselves in. It's always good to have a bit of extra. Sam, what about you? What do you suggest with your meds?
I think it's important. I've actually do it 1 week at a time.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes if I haven't had time, I'll do it day by day, but I know all my medication quite well, and I keep at least 1 month's worth as a backup.
Mm-hmm.
And especially if I go and travel, I'll end up getting a special script and I'll go get it for 3 months. So at the moment, I always pre-order my scripts due to the COVID-19. So I've got to be well prepared with what I've got and make sure I don't run out. So I get paranoid about that.
Yeah, that's right. We just, some of our medications we just can't run out of. So yeah, it's good to be on top of it. And Craig, what about you?
Same as Wendy and Karen. I do 2 weeks at a time. I have the same box that Karen and Sam use. I also have a spreadsheet. I don't know whether you can see that. I have a spreadsheet which has all my meds listed down, and every fortnight when I do it, exactly how many I use and how many I've got left of each one. And then I have you can see, I have a big box.
Oh, you're organised.
I currently take 14 of a morning and 6 of a night, so obviously fairly regimental. And then I have all my scripts all sitting all ready to go. So I note them down as to what scripts I've got and how many repeats I've got left. So obviously as We all know the meds are the most important part of the recuperation, staying as good as we are. So I had my console the other week on telehealth, and day after that the pharmacy rang. We went through all my medications, and 24 hours later got them delivered to us. So going very well. I just do the same thing. I do 2 weeks, but I keep a spreadsheet just to make sure I know exactly where I am with each one.
And things like that are really good, because I mean, you can rely on the pharmacist to prepare some of your meds for you. Like, there are local pharmacies where they'll organise that on your behalf, but because we get a lot of our medicines from the hospital, it's kind of handy to keep control of that yourself. Karen, do you carry a list of your medications with you when you're out and about?
I must admit I don't carry a list, but I don't know whether this is, they often laugh at me. I don't know whether this is because I'm a science teacher by trade, but I actually remember them all.
Oh,
so I know, I'm not trying to show off, but I can actually list every medication in order. So I know that's a little bit weird. I do keep a list handy though. So if I have any other medical appointments or any other procedures, I'll make sure that I take my list. So I do always have that with me so that they can actually see the milligrams and all the rest of it. I can name them all. But it is important to know them and to have that sort of information.
Yeah, that's true, especially if you go to a GP. Sam, do you go to the same pharmacist all the time?
I have been. I've been going to the local one for a change at the moment, but I always used to have that many appointments at the Alfred, which they know me quite well. So, but at the moment, due to the circumstances of COVID-19, I go to the local pharmacy. And I've had to change a few of the scripts as well, because some of them weren't the right scripts for the other pharmacy. So, but I'm well aware of it now, and it's all been okay.
I think that's a great way to do it. Whenever I move, we move a lot, and whenever I move, I go and I introduce myself to the local pharmacist, and I just explain that I've had a lung transplant. I'll be coming in regularly, and they get to know me. I tell them, my allergies and things, and not to get better service, just so that they're aware of what's going on. And sometimes if they're not used to stocking some of the drugs, then I often, will talk them through what I've got as well. You'll find as you get, further along, and perhaps you're on a concession card, or you've got a safety net kicking in, you might actually find it's better to get some medications from the hospital, because they'll be able to give you better bulk, and also they'll be able to issue things at a cheaper price. So if you do have a list, it's a good idea to mark down on that list which are the ones which are cheaper to get through the hospital pharmacy, because otherwise you forget. And they're more than happy to run through that with you for the first time. So anything else for medications, or should we move on to the next topic?
Well, the Alfred Hospital have actually posted out quite a bit of medication for me.
Yes, that's another one. Yeah, do you want to explain how that works?
Well, they sent it by a post office, and I've actually wasn't home one day and they picked it up at the post office, which was safe. Yeah. They actually gave me a call and placed my order with the scripts, and then they said, if I want to go to the chemist warehouse, can you get certain types? So they've got their own list, and then I can go to the local chemist for the other medication.
Okay, that's handy. Yeah, no, that's a good one to know, because sometimes if you're not unwell, you can't actually get into the pharmacist or to the hospital. So you just need to allow time as well. I've got a lot of reminders in my phones of when things are due, and giving myself at least a week to go and get them. Anyone else have any other?
I think just for any regional patients, it is important to know about the postage. I found it, obviously at this time, that's the only way I've been receiving them, because even going into the Warrnambool Base Hospital, it's actually preferred that I don't do that. So where that used to be my regular sort of pharmacy to get most of my medications. The other thing is, of course, I can get things like magnesium discounted from the Alfred, where I can't get that elsewhere. So I can get it, but I can't get it discounted. So the postage is great. And at the moment during COVID-19, they're not charging me. I don't know if that's everyone, but I'm pretty happy about that. So normally as a regional person, I do pay for that postage, but it is a very handy service.
Yeah, no, that's right. If you can avoid going to the hospitals, then that's not a good idea, especially if you're not well. That's a good plan. And some medications also you can't get a full 3 months. I'm at 3 monthly appointments, so there's sometimes where I will need the script and I will need to go to a local pharmacist. So that's something to keep in mind. Now, Craig,
that's probably where I've been lucky. So I was going to say, that's probably where I've been lucky. Only 2.5 years out, I've been regularly going to the hospital. So during COVID, it's the first time I had to go to a chemist to get stuff. So I get Celprat and atorvastatin through the chemist, but everything else I still get through the hospital. And yeah, as Karen said, like next day service, it's in a express post to you, it's all packed up, and and no charge for the delivery. Mind you, I don't have the safety net yet, so it still costs me a fortune to go through. So I don't normally reach out till about October every year. So
I'm about the same. I hit it around October, but it just depends on what you're getting, and everyone's medication is slightly different too. So just because somebody's on a particular drug doesn't necessarily mean you'll be on that. And some of the more common transplant medications, they vary as well. I've moved from different ones depending on where I was at, what side effects I was getting, etc. Great. So I think that's a great summary of medications. We also have information on our website too, so we can always update that with frequently asked questions. So the next thing I thought we...
and also with medication, every day, take the old temp.
Yes.
Every day. So since the operation, every day I take my temperature. Twice a week I do myself, just check my blood pressure at lunchtime twice a week as well. So just something you've always got to be wary of. Obviously these days with COVID, but I've always done it from day one since the transplant. They put the regimental into you, so it's just something I've kept on through.
Yeah, well, you led very well into that, Craig, because that was exactly what I was going to talk about next, was some of the other things that you can have at home. So I love that. Look, Sam looks like he's about to wave his around too. So Sam, what have you got there?
I've also got a cooler bag for my insulin because I'm diabetic as well. And I also put the medications in here as well. So I pretty much, anywhere I go, I leave this in the car or put it in so I've got a backup for my medications, especially if I'm out and I need the medications at a certain time.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah,
traveling with medications. I remember we went overseas for about 5 weeks, and I think I counted with something like 780 tablets I had to take with me. So we can talk a little bit about travel, but that is another issue. But like Craig was saying, it's really good to have other medical equipment at hand if you can, especially if you're not quite sick enough for hospital in the home, but you just want to check things. So temperature is a great one. There's all sorts of different. This is my one I use for my blood pressure, and it's just a wrappable sleeve, and it's like a can't go wrong with it dummy one, because no matter which way the sleeve's on, it still reads it. So that's quite handy. Thermometers are great. Just check if they're a bit old, because sometimes they can be a bit faulty. Karen, do you have any other equipment at home?
I do, but funnily enough, things I haven't used. I've got an oxygen saturation meter that I bought from overseas, so I don't actually have it with me, but every now and then I will pull that out if I'm a little bit unsure. So, Yeah, no, it's good to have that extra.
All right, excellent. That's great information too. So what about if we talk now about food and going to people's houses and going to restaurants and some of the tips and tricks you've learned along the way? I must say, when I first went through after having a transplant, the staff talked a lot about, don't do this, don't do that, don't eat this, and make sure this is okay. And so for the first, I guess, at least for the first year, patients do need to probably be extra careful. But after a while, you get into the hang of what you can and can't do. So who would like to kick off to talk about food? Craig, did you want to say how do you manage when you're around to someone's house or out to a restaurant?
I must say that the thing I do miss is my medium cooked steak. That's one thing I do miss, and I miss the pate. So obviously I'm eating like a pregnant woman now, as they say. So wherever I go, I need to have, if I'm having steak, it's always well done. My group of friends obviously know now exactly what I've had done, so they actually cater for me now. Originally there was the soft cheeses there was pate, which I couldn't have. They'd have a salad out and a barbecue sitting outside that people go and eat, and obviously you can't do that. So I'm very careful, and again, only been 2.5 years in, obviously I'm very regimental in what I do, what I eat. So I tend to eat a lot of pork now, because pork is always cooked without blood typically. We go pork chops or pork shoulder, and it's really nice. All the beef, roast beefs, typically you cook a lot stronger, a lot better than before. So so those bloods aren't in there all the time. But I found it very interesting that originally when I went to my friend's place, or you go out somewhere where you took for granted, now your eyes are open as to what's there. So I don't go to the deli and get any meat for the deli at the supermarket anymore. My fruit and veggies, every time I get fruit, I wash it before I have it, no matter what it is, apples, bananas, oranges, cantaloupe, whatever it may be. So all my food is washed. It's always in a crisper in below the fridge. And all food, if we cook one day, if I don't eat the next day, it gets thrown out. Whether I eat it or my family eat it, as a tradition now, it gets thrown out. So there's no food left after 48 hours. So yeah, it's a way to do it. But yeah, obviously they're pretty strict on you in the hospital and tell you what you can and can't eat. And it's a matter of keeping that in your mind as to it's your health. You don't want to be eating something that's going to cause you health problems in the future. So you've got to be careful about it.
Yeah, no, that's very true. I've actually had a salmonella scare. I ended up in hospital for about 6 days with salmonella poisoning from being a bit slack and eating from the wrong place in a food court. It was a good lesson learned, and they actually shut the place down because I was one of the few that had caught something from it. So yeah, so you can't be too careful. Karen, how do you go with having the family and trying to balance, what you need to have and what you're trying to do?
It is sort of interesting. I guess the family, particularly my husband, really misses the fact that we don't have as much shellfish as we used to. We're all big shellfish eaters, mussels and oysters and all the rest of it. And because I mainly do the cooking, if I can't eat it, I don't tend to cook it. So he's sort of missing out a little bit there. Look, generally speaking, it's okay. But we tend not to do as much of, when all my boys were home, I used to do sort of big buffet style things. I just don't do that anymore. So it's now more of a single serve type. So, I can cook my steak the way I need it, cook theirs the way they would like it, that sort of stuff. Now they're a little bit older and returned from uni, they're cooking a little bit. That's been interesting because I've just had to make sure that there's certain things and procedures and ways that's done. But look, they've grown up with it. They're very aware. So it hasn't been too much of a problem. And eating out, I just, really avoid buffets is my biggest thing to try and keep things to a single serve.
Yeah, buffets, they make me nervous now. I used to enjoy the buffet, but it's a bit tricky now. And you look, if you are at a situation where there is only a buffet, you can talk to the, if you're at a restaurant, you can have a talk to the staff and just, say to them that, is there anything that they can bring you fresh? We've done that before if we've got caught out like that, or if you're at a wedding or something. But generally, if people are inviting you to events, they're usually pretty careful to check with you beforehand what you can have. And sometimes it's good. Sometimes you get like this special plate served to you at the function and everyone else is, having all sorts of things and they're wanting to know what yours is. I've been to parties before where they've put aside little chip bowls and a selection of all the different things which they've promised me they've had in the fridge, only to have some kids come along and put their hands in them and so then can't eat them. How do you go, Sam, with food and things?
Yeah, I'm pretty cautious, especially when I do see people offer me a lot of food and things like that. I see it medium rare, but now close family and friends understand. If they're having a barbecue, I'll make sure that it's well done and it's cooked so fresh. And if I'm at a restaurant or anything, I'll just tell them straight and make sure that it's, especially rice. If I cook rice, I have to have that the same day. So I don't normally order rice at a restaurant or anything like that. So I've drawn the line quite a few times and be extra careful, which I think it's quite important. I don't have any raw fish or anything like that. Oysters, I'll have at Kilpatrick. And if once in a blue moon, if I'm at a buffet at a party, I'll tell them to cook it. And they understand. And if I'm at a function that people do not know what my health condition is, then I'll just say, sorry, I'm full, I've eaten. Things like that. And I understand little kids always offer you chips and things and they put their hands and everything in it. But I keep sterilising gel in my pocket and I just really watch how things are done, just to be pretty cautious.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. And look, if your friends or family or the event are a bit nervous too, they can always get you to go first, because I've found that's quite handy. Gordon rushes up to get me a plate of food at wherever event we're at, just to make sure no one else has touched anything. So that's another handy tip as well. And I'm sure there are many others, but have you got any more, Craig?
I was going to say, it's also interesting that we said before at restaurants, how willing they are once you ask them after you. It's where you sit back and go, oh, do I really ask them? But it's amazing how many times we've been to a restaurant or out somewhere and they're happy to accommodate you for that first meal or that freshly cooked meal or the fresh batch of chips with the old ones. So, yeah, I mean, people shouldn't be scared about asking because the restaurants and those public places are very willing to help you.
Yeah, well, they definitely don't want to have any ramifications come back if you've, held back. Thankfully, a lot of the reservations now, they actually have a little dietary. If you're booking online, you can actually put all your dietary items in there, so that can help. Anyone else like to add anything else about food and dining? No? All right, well, we'll do one more one before we finish up. I thought we could just talk about some more general practical tips now, whether it's, exercise that you do or, when you go out shopping. So perhaps, Craig, if you'd like to start, what are some other practical tips you'd like to share with everyone?
Probably before COVID, washing your hands. I had sanitary everywhere, home, office, car. So whenever I get in the car, get out of the car, in my office, if I go out or come back in, just from walking down the steps or to the elevator or something like that. Travel's a different one as well. I mean, you've obviously got to be careful. I used to go to Bali once a year. Obviously, Bali is now a no-no. So good thing is now we've bought a caravan and my wife and I are travelling around Australia when we can and going away. So but I think it's just, you can be careful what you do. You're not as free as you were to do before in the places you wanted to go before. And sometimes it's a matter of common sense. If you see something out of the ordinary or not in normal, you just don't do it. But these days, obviously, as we said before, with COVID, we've now got the mask to wear in Victoria as of tomorrow or Wednesday or Thursday. But it's just that general upkeep of your health. I walk every day. I'm on a Strava app, which I join. So I do probably between 4 and 7 Ks a day. I typically walk about 30. And we're in a group for work, so we're always trying to push each other. So I did 32 Ks last week and was pipped to the post by someone who ran and did a 40 K and up for the end of the week. But they're the motivational things you get to do as well. So now we've joined the park walk down the corner. Obviously the park walk's on at the moment with COVID, but that's another thing where you can join and you've always got people there you can do it with. And so, I mean, life's still the same as it was before. For me, it's obviously better. I have 22% lung capacity, so for me to walk down the street was a big chore. I couldn't put the bins out. Now I'm walking 8 Ks a day. That's my life as it is now. So, but yeah, it's just the fundamentals of life that you got to be wary of, and cleanliness. Obviously, your hand cleanliness is the thing the most important for everybody. And you just don't put your hands in your eyes or your face, even with or without COVID.
Yeah, it's been interesting. I mean, all of you are probably the same. You're kind of like, oh, they're finally doing what I've been doing for years.
Yeah. Well, here's my sanitizer. It sits with me all the time. It's on the laptop now.
In the bag. And how about you, Karen? What are some of your final tips you'd like to share?
Look, I think very, very similar. I think it's really important to make sure, both for your physical and your mental health, that you are keeping up your exercise. I've really increased my walking, mainly because I used to swim 3 times a week and I love to swim. I had a particular saltwater pool up here. Well, I didn't have it, but there was one available, which was great. It's now closed and not operational during COVID, and I don't think they're going to continue it. So for me, it's been about finding alternatives to that. So every time one door shuts, it's finding an alternative to something that you can do there. Very much the same in terms of the hand sanitizers and things like that. I'm a teacher by trade. I tend to have a fair bit of natural immunity, but I'm also very, very conscious of making sure that I don't touch my face as much. And as you said, COVID has really been what we've been doing. So it's just ramping that up a little bit more. So
great tips. Sam, what about you? Any final thoughts?
Yeah, well, I always keep steriliser in my pocket. I've got about 10 of these, so I don't forget them. And also, the Alfred Hospital gives me boxes of the alcohol wipes as well.
Oh yeah, they're good.
So I use a lot of that to even just for my mobile phone and wipe it, because people just don't understand that they're always on their phone, they're touching food straight after it, things like that. So I think that's another important thing, to always sterilise your hands. Yeah. Everyone thinks I'm very fussy, but I just can't afford to catch anything, and just some people don't. They're starting to understand that now during the COVID-19. They're looking for sterilising gel and everything. So then now they're starting to think, wow, I know what you feel like, and they're asking for a mask, or if you've got one, I said, yeah, I've been doing this for years.
Yeah. No, it's so true. Like, I think if anything, it's probably going to get easier for lung transplant patients or transplant patients in general, because people are going to be a lot more aware of how things can transmit, and they'll be a bit more careful about what they do around us, and also just be a bit more understanding, I think. So yeah, it's not a bad thing. It's going to help, and so far we've all kept pretty well.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't understand, so that's another reason why it's important to keep this in your pocket.
Yes, yeah, that's right. Well, I've not been. So my other final tips, I guess, is I haven't been shaking hands with people for years. So the only people that I shake, well, I kind of getting more closer contact are probably my husband and my dad, because he refuses to not hug me, which is lovely. So, but everyone else, I blow air kisses, I do elbow bumps, and so it's not been a big change in that regard for me either. So I haven't, kind of kept my distance. I find that really helps. And yeah, even when I'm out shopping, I'll try to avoid really busy, crowded places. I work from home, so I'm lucky enough that I can go during the week at whatever's the quietest time. So I make use of that. And if I'm feeling a bit vulnerable, if I've got something and Gordon can't get out and about, then we use online shopping quite a bit as well, which is really a handy service. And there's lots of things that can be delivered nowadays, so you can limit going out. But yeah, hand sanitizer, great item. So I think that's given us some really good tips. So hopefully that's really helpful for everybody who's been watching this. And yeah, we'll have a series of these, so look out for them on our website, and they'll be going into a YouTube channel. And if you'd like to be part of one of these, then just reach out as well through, you can reach me through the website, or Craig. We're both on there on behalf of Lungitude. So thank you everyone, and hope that was helpful.